And at that time, I couldn't believe it. And, I'm just praying to God, just keep.
Because you didn't have her at that point, right?
Correct. She got taken away from me.
Wrongly.
Correct.
Right.
And I just pray to God, I trust you. You're keeping her safe. That's all I want, is for her to keep safe.
Well, today I'm excited as always because I have an awesome guest, and I have Justin Moore. Welcome, Justin.
Welcome.
And I've known Justin, oh my goodness, a long time. I met Justin when I had just got saved and was working on a job at a company called Midwest Patterns. Why don't you just briefly kind of go over what was your family life like, and where did Christ come into that? And maybe, did you go to church right out of the gate, or just what did the overall look like when you first began as a family?
As far as I can remember, it was always Sunday school when I was hatched.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. Parents took us to Sunday school, and I stayed in it for a while, and that's when my mom and dad, they kind of fell out, but I stayed until probably around 4th or 5th grade. Went to a summer camp called Camp Inlow, and that's where I decided to give my life to Christ.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
So how old do you think?
10 or 11.
Okay.
I don't quite remember.
So your parents were in the church when you were born and got you into going.
Correct.
And then they stepped away?
Yes. Yes, because around my kindergarten year, my dad, my Grandpa Moore, he was dying, and my dad's like, yeah, God, if you take my dad away, I'm going to walk away from you. I'm going to turn my back on you.
Oh.
So he turned his back for nearly 40 years.
Wow.
But
well, I get it to some degree, and, again, it's a lot of why we're here today, to help people understand that there's pain and a purpose, and we won't get there now. And again, I get it.
And then later on that year, I don't quite remember, my mom came and witnessed me to get baptized too, between 4th and 5th grade. Then after that, went to a few Wednesday night services here and there. Just started getting, hiccuping. And high school year, I wasn't involved at all, but still God was on the back of my mind throughout. And then by the time 97, 98 came, October 20th of 97, when I turned 21, that's when I decided I want to rededicate my life to Christ.
Is that right?
Yes. And my parents asked me, what do you want for your 21st birthday? I said, I just want a Bible with my name. And
so that implanting even from a young age, we talk a lot on our podcast that the word never goes void. I like the viewers to know that even by implanting that it never goes void. So it gets in you.
Yes.
And it was in you.
Yes.
Okay, and it never leaves. What's cool here, so at 21, which is unusual, you're feeling the pull of God again.
Yes.
That's interesting. And what happened there now, completely?
Then we met at work. Then we just started talking about Christ. At that job, that's when I got transferred to the weekend job, 12-hour shifts of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, where I couldn't go to Sunday service no more. And that's when you chimed in, hey, want to go to my church on Thursday nights? I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Isn't that cool? I love that. Again, it's just, we always say on here, God's always working and he's always speaking. So that's cool. So that sparked you at that point, and a little bit even that probably coming to River of Life on the night we did sparked that fire a little bit more. It definitely planted more seeds of the Holy Spirit and life within you to stir the fire a little bit. But yet, there was still more to go through, right?
Yes.
What'd that look like?
Well, just like the seeds being scattered, I got burned out. I burned up quick. So I started backsliding a lot throughout my 20s and a little bit of my 30s, and I got...
Did you have a lot of support around you then, or was there anybody to help you stay in there? Or?
No, I had a lot of believers or non-believers around me that were like, didn't really help my choice in life, but I own all my actions. Those are my choices that I made, and I'm
They are.
totally ashamed of it all.
Well, we become like who we hang around.
Yeah.
And we got to be, I think a point in there, even for all of us, is that we got to be careful when we are saved. We're no better than anyone else, but when we hit a level in God, we got to be careful of that, because unfortunately, one bad apple can spoil the whole thing. And if you don't get the right pull in your life, it pulls you the other way, which sounds like you might have needed some better pulling around you to keep you in the game, because on our own, we screw up and bad. So that's happening, and now you're moving forward. And what all kind of activities going on in those 20s after all of that?
Bad decisions. It was really stupid stuff I did.
Just stupid stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to really announce it on the
Please,
air.
you don't have to. We don't want to give the enemy any more credit than he deserves.
Yeah.
Because he's a master destroyer. But I think, for the viewers, and sometimes I like them to know, we all mess up, okay? We all have that stuff. Anyway, so you fought that. How long did you fight that, you think?
At least a good decade or so. And then that's when I moved the Kirksville area for a few years. Got remarried there and got baptized.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Again? Because I think you were baptized young, right?
Yeah, I was baptized when I was younger. And the evangelist, Jeff, he was there. He was pretty much telling me, why did you get baptized? I'm like, I really don't remember why. I'm like, what's stopping you right now to get baptized? I'm like, nothing. I'm like, let's go do it. And so he's like, yeah, all right, let's call the church, open the doors, and we're heading out there. Next thing you know, tornado siren starts going off. I'm like, I guess this is the one thing that's going to stop me from being baptized, Jeff, is a tornado. So,
but it didn't, right?
No, they dunked me.
So you were married at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And was that a second marriage you're saying, or?
Correct.
Second marriage.
Yeah. I think I was probably about 32, 33. I don't quite remember at the moment.
Now, what happens after this remarriage? Or should I say this marriage and this rebaptism?
Things were going good for...
Were they?
Yes. Just for a few more years, and then things turned sideways in life. I stayed in church. I lived with my pastor, Dan, for the last 2 to 3 months. I was there in Kirksville. I was working 2 jobs. I saved enough money to get a vehicle, and I packed my stuff and never looked back. In 2014, I think it was, when I left Kirksville, went back to Quincy. At that moment, I thought I needed a distraction. I thought that would help me to get over what the trauma I went through in Kirksville.
Gotcha.
No. Out of that distraction, I had a little girl. That's my Noelle, my last one, and I thought I was going to be with this person forever, and again, things went sideways. And at that moment, when things went sideways again, I went to the 929 Crossing campus. I went there a few times, and there's where I met Larry Maggart, Joe Thomas, and Sean Rice. And when things went sideways, Larry, he was there. I told him what happened. He's like, it was at the end of the service, and he's like, let's go to the steps. And he just laid it out. I'm like, I can't, Larry. I'm like, and right there, I just dropped to my knees, and I just let it all out.
So, and somehow with all of that and that kind of pain and that much stuff going on, and I don't know how to say it correctly, how dare you have a child maybe in that way and not, but it's the very thing that's pulling you yet to want a deeper relationship with God.
Yes.
Instead of slandering you for all of it. And we're not telling somebody to go out there and live that way and do it that way, but God's always working, and he's trying to bring things together for good. He's not counting the faults, and he's even using that scenario to keep moving you forward.
Yeah, he did.
So now he's moving you forward. He's got like a support function around you a little bit. Some men that are becoming real men and doing what they're called to do in God.
Exactly.
To save the hurt and the broken.
It was them, all 3 of the men there. They breathed that life into me, saying, hey, I see you coming through those doors with your daughter. And to at that time, I couldn't believe it. And, I'm just praying to God, just keep.
Because you didn't have her at that point, right?
Correct. She got taken away from me.
Wrongly.
Correct.
Right.
And I just pray to God, I trust you. You're keeping her safe. That's all I want, is for her to keep safe.
Because the other side wasn't good for your daughter, evidently, as well. In a nutshell, maybe?
In a nutshell, yeah.
Okay. That's all right.
Hindsight view. That's for another story.
Absolutely. We don't even need to acknowledge it, except there's a reason that the other side wasn't good, and your heart bled to have your daughter back.
Yes. And yes, I was thankful for it. Is for like almost 6 months, every time I was up to the steps, I thank God for the hurt and pain of the grieving I was going through for not having my daughter at my side.
God knows. He knows our heart better than us. He knows the desires of our heart, so he knows truth. He knows that your life was trying to surrender, yet even the ultimate surrender, and finally say, enough's enough. He knows all of that to then orchestrate. And what ended up happening then?
Larry, he invited me to Celebrate Recovery. That's for addicts and alcoholics. And I'm like, well, I'm not neither of those. He said, well, it's for life issues.
Right.
I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And then I went there for a few years until they changed it over to regeneration. And then I went to doing that program, and eventually COVID hit. And during that process, I now had an opportunity to have visits with my daughter through CHADOC and DCFS and stuff like that. And they asked, hey, since you are having visits with your daughter, do you want to have visits with her half-brother, Nathaniel? I'm like, yeah, I don't want to separate them because, they're growing up together.
Good for you.
And so I started having those two relationships once a week at a certain location and just building that relationship up. And then eventually, as of July 2nd of 2020, I got full custody of my daughter, and I became the guardian of Nathaniel.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That tells me that, again, He honors the desires of our heart. First, he places them in there. Mm-hmm. And even though, you were very rambunctious along the way, everything has been used to break you down to finally get broken enough to need him. And he's also redeeming, restoring God, and he begins to restore what was broken there.
Yeah, that was my ground zero.
So therefore, all of that is bringing you to, I'm devoted, I'm going to serve you no matter what, because I want them. You got me. I think for the first time he had you more than ever, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. So now we go there. Then I would say, at what point then you met your late wife?
It was a few years after I got custody of the kids.
Let's go ahead and bring her in. We're going to bring her in as we're talking about her.
All right.
And I think what we'll tell the viewers now, and I'm going to go ahead and bring mine out as we move forward. We're going to talk about all of this stuff you've heard Justin say of how rough it could be. And now we move forward. He's going to introduce his wife, Shauna. I'm going to introduce my wife, who is Catherine. And you're going to begin to hear the testimony and the legacy of what has happened with both of us as we have moved forward in the call of God, that what God has done in our life now around our wives and what has transpired. So now we move forward. You've got change, you've got kids, and you've been through 2 marriages, so you're thinking about a third all of a sudden. How's all this transpiring?
I wasn't thinking about it. It just happened.
Wow.
So
I like it.
Well, Sean and I, we previously knew each other. I had a relationship back in early 2010 for a few months. It was short. I was going through my own issues. She was doing her own issues too, and things didn't work out at that time because I wanted to be closer to my kids from my first marriage. So it would have been about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive to go see them in one direction. I didn't want that at that time, so we didn't continue that relationship.
I see.
In spring of 2022, I received a message from her, Facebook Messenger, and I'm like, is this a scam? I'm working
that's right. You told me about that. Go ahead.
I was working on a Sunday doing mall security. We're in a cop.
Yeah. That's all right.
And I'm drilling her questions. This person who I think is a scammer is like, hey, where was our first date at? What did we do? How did we meet? And this and that. And she's like going through this and all that. And she said, hey, I had a dream last night that God wanted me to tell you that it was about you. You want to see how you were doing. And I felt the call to check up on you, Justin.
And just so the people know, God does use dreams.
Yes. So it's been over 12 plus years since I last seen her.
God's always speaking. He's always working.
Oh, and during that time when we're communicating, I hear God in the back of my voice is, you're going to marry her. I'm like, are you sure? You are going to marry her.
I believe it.
All right. So at that time, I was talking to about 3 other women, and I just cut them off and started focusing on Shauna.
Did you hear the call of God?
Yeah.
And luckily, I would say that you were surrendered enough to Him to be able to hear the voice of God. And evidently, Shauna, I don't know where she was at that point. It sounded like she was hearing and having dreams and making change.
She was.
Was she was she a believer?
Yes, she
when
was.
you met her?
The first time and this time, yes. She still continued to be a believer. And,
always a believer.
And she kept on refining herself in her walk of faith throughout the 12 years that we were separated.
Wow.
Wow.
So He's bringing 2 people together, both in the faith.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that all then look once you got together? You got family, you got kids.
Oh, man. Yeah, she already had 3 kids. So I had 4 kids, 5 kids with Nathaniel. He's a bonus. So big family.
You're talking 8 total?
Yes, 8 total.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Luckily, most of them were in their adult age.
Okay.
So half of them were.
You didn't have all of them in the home then at one
Correct.
point.
We only just had the younger 3. Her daughter, Caitlin, and my younger 2.
So she was, so you got married, and she's a lady of faith, and how was she with, because blending families can be rough.
Not this time. My second marriage, it was rough. This, she actually treated my kids like they were her own. And I treated her daughter that was living with us like she was mine. And she is on the high end spectrum of autism and other disabilities. And she, Caitlin, she suffered from PTSD from a previous marriage trauma.
Well, when God puts something together, and it's been told me, and I've had to learn the hard lesson, when He puts pieces like, in this case, you 2 together, there should be an elevation. It shouldn't be hard. There should be that connection that it doesn't go backwards, but it should even grow stronger. And He blessed you, I believe, because of your faithfulness to want to surrender more and to bring pieces together. Then He ends up giving you a wife. And, marriage is hard. We get it. It is. But still, He gave you somebody that was loving, accepted the whole, sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more blessed could you have been at that point?
It's indescribable.
I put a lasso around that one to hold that one in, because that's incredible. I believe that's meeting the desires of your heart. And not only meeting the desires of both of your all's hearts, but as we're going to probably find out, He's got you in not a perfect place, I'm sure, but because none of us are perfect, but He had you in a good place, probably in order to do later what would need to be done. And for the viewers, what I would mean by that is, as we step in, I think, to this next piece here, life can be rough. And Justin and I, not only did we meet at a younger age for him and myself, but that relationship has never ended. To come to the point where even though we could only talk, who knows, maybe every even 4, 5, 6 years, just if we happened to run at each other. But our lives also corresponded. God already knew things that were going to happen, even the bad things that would happen, to bring us together today, to walk through the challenge of, as you've heard Justin mention, of just getting to that place in God where you'll finally really surrender, then to bless our life. And his wife, unfortunately, I'd say we lost Shauna, 3 months ago now?
3+.
And how old was she?
Back in July, 44.
44. And you think, man. And I look at my wife, Catherine, who the good news, of course, is that was my first marriage that I had for 20-some years. Mm-hmm. And I lost her at the same age of about 42, 44.
And I'm about to say this to you, but I remember the day that you met her at work. Oh,
yeah.
Man, she brought a smile to your face that just...
That's right, because we met while I was there. I was already working there.
So I remember that. I was like,
that's
wow.
Right. Well, hallelujah. And, she was a quiet lady, but yet she was as fun as it could be. Mm-hmm. But she was that person. When you got to know her, she was so funny and so kind and so loving. But yet her quietness would make people think that maybe she wasn't. But she... Absolutely. I forgot. I met her while I was there. You're right. One of my employees at that time was the one that introduced me to her. So
Troy, I think.
But anyway, the hard part is, no different than I and Justin, we lost our wives at a young age. And of course, I was left with 4 children who had been homeschooled their whole life. So when you finally lose somebody and all of a sudden life changes like that, it was initially devastating. And I look at yours, unfortunately, your wife as well, we lost to cancer. So both of our wives had to get that horrible disease. And, well, they don't know necessarily why, but even after this, we've got some stories to tell. Mm-hmm. And we call this podcast Winning by Faith. And I know that I could testify even with my wife. You think about a person who went through 4 years of salivary gland cancer, had her face distorted, and she was a very perfected woman that always... This girl would wear makeup all night because she didn't want to take it off for the chance of not looking right. So, it's like some would tell her, like, well, Catherine, take that off, but she wouldn't. And I think she would get up the next day, take it off, and redo it. But she would always keep it on because she always wanted to look her best. And you think, man, God, how could she go to the point where she'd end up having scars on her neck and, her jaw cut into and all these things, but yet the testimony in that for her and my side is that not once did she complain until the day she left. Did she ever stop not wanting to give and be the one that would help? Never complaining about the amount of pain she was in. She always was ready to give a hand, no matter how hard. Never cursed God. And to the day she passed away, or should I say to the day that I took her to the hospital for the last time, Justin and I went in, her faith was so strong that she had her scripture cards and she was holding them into the center of her chest. And, it's about 7 a.m. as I'm scattering around. And what am I going to do with my kids? I got to get her there because she's saying, I got to go and I got to go now. But yet I peeked into the bedroom and there she was, sitting on the bed in the center. And she was pressing those promises into her chest, believing so hard. And the thing that we didn't know as she was pressing them, she was pressing her heart. And what we didn't know until she, told us, the doctors told us, they said when once they did the scan, they realized that the cancer she had decided to go crazy, but her heart was consumed. And that's where she was pressing that so hard into. And you think, man, okay, God, what more did you need? How many more prayers did you need? What would it have taken? Because the faith there was tremendous. And I may not fully understand all of that, but I know that God's thoughts are far beyond ours, that her testament now later to testify that other ladies will see your kids and realize that their stance of faith still they have is because of the legacy that their mother laid into them. Their gentleness and their kindness and the way they are was laid into them because of the legacy that their mother put into them to be there. And luckily, who knows why, but she was with them 24/7. So even though somehow I would assume God knows that she was going to leave when she did. And he gave her the first 20-some years to be with her kids day and night. Now they don't have her, of course, but they were to be with her that whole time. And then you look at her stance of faith. You know, how many of us can go through something and stand out and still never complain? I don't know about you, but I have a problem sometimes of complaining when it's not going my way.
Yeah.
This girl never complained. What a life of legacy around faith to say, no matter what, Lord, I serve you, I will never curse you, and I trust you. And she was trusting to the day she left. Never did she waver in faith. That's faith.
That's beautiful.
And Shauna, I think she was the same in your life, right?
Yeah, she was just what you described your wife too. Just almost to a T. I always found my wife to be beautiful, just not just on the outside, but
amen.
It was how she served others, so how she served her God, how she served her family and her friends. That's where her true beauty came from, was that, on how she served. There was a time when earlier this year in March where she had major back spasms from the cancer going from her colon up to her liver and just attacking her. And at that time at work, I hurt myself at work. I pulled a muscle somehow. I squatted down to reel up a water hose, and I turned and my back went out. I fell to the ground. Someone was like, "Did you slip?" I'm like, "No, my back went out." I'm like, I don't know how this happened. So I stayed home for a good week or so, and during that time, she was trying to get up to help me, even just go to the bathroom, to help me. You'll get a drink or get something to eat. I'm like, stay in bed. Let me do this. And even as men, I'm sure you had this emotion too, knowing that there's this intangible thing attacking your wife that you just want to just rip it out and just
so bad.
Oh man, that just tore me up a lot so many times. It's just, I can't help my wife. Why can't I help my wife? But it wasn't that what I needed to do. It was times when she was in so much pain that she's like, just pray for me.
Yep.
Just pray for me till this pain goes. And then we're on, and we just prayed over that, and then the pain's gone for that night, and she slept.
Yep. I had multiple moments like that, and all I could do was that. Usually, for whatever reason, they'd be in the middle of the night, and she would just say, "Pray for me right now."
Yep.
Because the pain was so hard, and you physically can't take it away, and you're like, "God, where are you?" And you pray. And whatever it did, it got you through that moment.
Did.
And maybe it came back, but temporarily it got it through it. And again, I don't know, faith is such a big issue. And without faith, we can't please him. And, does it get hard? It does. And I could mention many in the Bible that went through things, and it could get hard. I don't understand everything, but God says his thoughts are far beyond ours. And even as hard as this is, and as hard as it was to go through that, as hard as it is to protect your kids and try to, keep them clear of the hardship or the sitting in the middle of the night and, your wife feeling like tonight's tonight and you're trying to encourage them, but yeah, you're not planning that. Your children don't know that. You're trying to keep them up. And I don't know if it's right or wrong, and we by no means are here today to say we know all the rights and wrongs, but I do know that, you try to protect your children, and we never stop believing. There's not one of my kids that right to the very end would have not stopped believing and trusting that it would happen, that he would heal her, and he could. Now, why he didn't, we don't know, but it'd be like my youngest. I mean, she believed right to the end that, well, God can do everything, so he's going to do it. Well, we didn't get that. And, it's really hard when faith is good and things are going your way and it happens the way you think. But, the real test of faith is, what do you do when it don't go the way you think? What do you do? When it don't happen the way you want it, what do you do? And that's the testament that goes out. And our wives were beautiful women, inside and out. We can see that. Mm-hmm. And God knows what we went through was hard, but they're in glory land now. And I guarantee my wife would say, yeah, I know it's hard, but you don't want me to leave this place because it's pretty phenomenal. And I'll see you in a couple hours, okay? Because you got to understand that our life here is a blip of time, and it's over quick. And if you compare our life to eternity, it's just such a, it's not even a piece of grain of sand on the sea of sand that's so wide. It's such a blip of time. Mm-hmm. And faith is the only way we please him. And we can't have faith unless we have trial, because otherwise, what would you have faith for if everything went right? Yeah. And again, I don't know why you and I had to experience what we've did. I don't know why our lives overlap when they did and have come back together the way they have to justify what's going here. But somehow there's this plan, and it has all the stuff in it. And we're living it out to come now and testify, in this case, of these guys, of how glorious they were to serve God, to stay in faith through all the hurt, through all the pain, and come to our lives at a time where, and I think you'd probably agree, many even said mine, my wife was fortunate to have somebody that would stand behind her the way I did.
Yeah.
She needed that. And I think you even said that in your case, You've been told that she was lucky to have you.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have her to love me the way she did.
Amen. Me too. I really, it's funny when somebody leaves, you understand love a little bit more, and it's more than physical.
Yeah.
And the deepness of faith and the deepness of love and the legacy they leave in your children and all of this, you look at all that and it's like, that's the real goal. Yeah. Because, we didn't have a lot of money all the way through. We were just getting by. But what we did have was that. Yeah. That stuff's what really counts. That's what people got to know. And hurt and pain comes. But man, if we can somehow know that there's purpose in the pain, now we go forth and we can tell their story. We can lift people up in life and let them know that even as men, here we are, 2 single fathers. I mean, I have 4 kids. My son's, he's married now, but I still got 3 girls at home. I'm like, how humorous is that? Here's Dad with 3 girls, I don't know how to curl hair and do these things, but they keep me in line, and want to teach me how I should be doing as well. Mm-hmm. And you've got, what do you have at home now?
I now have my younger 2 at home.
Not younger 2?
Yes. Caitlin is now with her Aunt Kara. I struggled that with a bit after Shauna's passing. It's like, what am I going to do with Caitlin? Because Shauna was homeschooling her. She can't go to public school because her high anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And she's like a cat and being baptized in water all the time. She's just claws out. And I believe that God called Kara to take care of Caitlin. I'm like, she's financially set where she can work at home and take care of Caitlin and provide her with a private schooling.
Absolutely.
I'm like,
absolutely.
That's a calling from God.
And that's her grandmother?
Her aunt.
Her aunt?
Her Aunt Kara.
Okay.
So that was.
And that's Shauna, one of Shauna's children that came over with the marriage, right?
Yes, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is they're in good care.
Yeah.
And there's a plan there for a reason.
And Caitlin's doing great with Kara. I mean, absolutely.
There you go.
And after this, I'll be going to get Caitlin, have her for the weekend.
Can you tell me, I know in my life, of course, you can see that mine's now been about 4 or 5 years ago, of course, when we lost Catherine. And, here we are, I'm winning by faith, broadcasting God's victory stories, because just to know God is the victory. For her to be in heaven right now is the victory. That is the victory. Okay? And everything we do in life, no matter how good or how hard, is all going towards that victory, to lead others to Him, to spend eternity with Him. That is the real victory. But I look at your life, now that she's gone, I know 2 things where we can kind of begin to head towards the end, but that is one. I was going to pull the text up, and I probably could, but the first night when I realized we needed to do this, you were telling me how her life had impacted you now that she's gone, and how that is increasing your, how'd you say, your life with God, or the realness of his presence in your life. I know you remember how you were going through that or not?
I don't right remember. It's just one of those moments where you're just in the moment of just writing and it just comes out. So,
and that's God.
No, I took a hiatus on just my art for a while. And then while she was sick, I was wanting to do some paintings just to help throw a benefit for her so we can get by financially. Mm-hmm. And one of the first paintings I've done while she was sick was this one right here. Steve, it's actually done in acrylic paint and a lot of spray paint and tape.
And just so everybody knows, Justin is an artist, and God's beginning to use that artistry even more now.
Yes.
And he's going to tell a story in a little bit, but just so you know, this is a gifting that God has put in him, and God is bringing to light after all the pain.
This was the first painting I'd done, and Shauna, she just absolutely loved it.
Oh, so she saw this one?
Yes, she saw this one. I did this back in May of 24, and I called it The Emergence of Creation.
The Emergence of Creation.
So if you think of back in Genesis, of the how time began, and I was try to capture that as a panel-wise from drawing comic books and stuff like that, or want to be drawing comic books, panels. So Emergence of Creation was a...
So is that almost, so is that like, because I look in there and I see the deaths of what would be, I guess, the sun maybe?
The sun and the stars.
And there's layers coming out.
Yeah, the galaxy. So.
Wow. I mean, it's got meaning.
It does.
How deep and how wide God really is. It's like I look inside that hole and it goes on.
Yeah. Oh man! I just loved her smile when she saw it. And this is the one that one of the first ones I've done after she passed away. Oh, actually, this is the second one. I didn't bring the first one. The first one I had was Homecoming. This was called "Sweetly Broken," from a song from Jeremy Riddle. Just a name, "Sweetly Broken." Right. This is what I wrote to you that night.
Yeah.
It was after a hiatus from painting, I've rediscovered myself, my creative voice, despite the turmoil that followed my wife's passing. Through my spiritual journey with Christ, I've confronted overwhelming emotions and questions, only to find solace in God's gentle reminder. Our faith and advertising, I'm sorry, I can't speak, is the true anchor. Inspired by my wife's unwavering faith, I strive to rise above, seeking strength in our Savior's presence and embracing the transformation power of being sweetly broken.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's a pretty deep message. And sweetly broken means that no matter what we go through, He's it. I mean, he was sweetly broken in a sense. I mean, he had his son to be sacrificed, beaten beyond recognition for our sake. That's pain. Yet in there was sweet emotion, because out of that comes life. And we don't have time to say the whole even meaning right there. But sweetly broken means that without him, we're nothing. But with him, we have everything.
Yes.
And everything means to endure no matter what faces us, we can overcome. And when we come out of that, our relationship is even deeper in Christ. We feel more solid than ever. And I would verge to say most of the hard stuff I've been through, if I knew it was coming, I wouldn't want it. But now that I'm beyond it, I wouldn't change it because it is making me become who I needed to be in order to give it out to others. And out of that pain comes life that we can say, you know what, you can make it. You can, one of the hardest things is to lose a wife or a husband or a child. And in my case, we lost my wife. And hard, as you know, especially when you're really in there and you finally I got a good one here. I got it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why would he take that? But yet out of that, they're in a good place. Now what do? We're here to testify more, which is what you're doing in your artistry. So now that's going to become a ministry, and that becomes even stronger. And show them I like them all, but show them the one that I really like.
All right.
Now, can you tell them the story that you told me last night or night before, whatever it was? What happened when that hit out there and what it meant to somebody?
This is Walk With Me. Walk With Me celebrates my late wife, Shauna's courageous spirit as she fought cancer with unshakable faith.
Yes.
Her smile illuminated even on the darkest days. Though her loss still lingers, her legacy inspires me to draw on our shared resilience. When shadows fall, I choose to walk with God, recalling his guidance and triumphs. He whispers of hope to overcome the temptation of despair, leading me towards healing and redemption. The whisper, walk with me. Because I heard that when he was walking with Shauna in her bed, when she was laying in bed. At the very beginning of when we got the news of the cancer, we were one. It was, we're not going to talk to cancer. We're not going to talk about the cancer. We're going to talk to it. We said, you got 5 months. You're getting out of here. This is your eviction notice. You're out of here in 5 months. And we walked and we prayed that she was already healed. And through those several months, even people from our church says, I don't know how you guys are doing it. How are you coming? How are you being this way? I'd be like a terrible mess having this news and stuff. I'm like, I can't. There's no way. I'm not going to bend to that kind of news. No. Right.
And that's what we should do. And some may not understand, but the last thing I want to do is sit and accept it in. No. Awesome. Yeah. And it's like my wife, we did the same thing. We continually believed to the very last second.
Exactly. I believe this because a year before that, her dad, Sean's dad, Don, he's been battling some kind of cancerous thing in his blood system and stuff. I don't know the technical terms of what it is and stuff for 4 to 6 years. About a year before we got the news of her, he was cancer-free. He was healed. Everything about him was going positive in a direction. Because I remember the day that when Shauna and I first got together in spring of 22, she told me about the news of her dad. And this is one of the incredible things that I think for what men and husbands should do is when wives come to them with news like that, you just take them. You not just pray, but I felt God says, pray with your eyes open. And I looked deep into her eyes and I prayed over this prayer for her dad to be healed and this and that. And even the same kind of prayer when Shauna was diagnosed. It's the same thing. Something about praying with your eyes open reveals, makes you more vulnerable. You actually see the other person's soul and be more connected. Absolutely. It was absolutely deep.
That's the Spirit of God taking over and the Spirit of God doing it.
It was.
And I don't understand why one is healed and one is not. But I can sit and glorify where she's at. And I know the testament she's left. And I hear the testament there. I don't know why he answers certain prayers and not others. But, I know somehow in time, I always find reasoning normally. Maybe always we don't get everything. But I always can look back and say, oh, God, I see now why. or why this had to happen for this to come, or what by this happening, this now is able to take place. Or there are just so many circumstances. One of the things I put in my book is how many coincidences will it take to make a truth? Well, how many coincidences of seeing the life that she left and her testimony that she left to know that I'm in control. Don't worry. She's with me. We're good here. You stay in faith. And for her sake, she would want you to lead others the right way. And that's to Him.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you face, because it's really what we do when we face hardship that gets us there. Is it hard? Absolutely. Say you didn't cry a tear, you'd be lying. To say it didn't hurt inside, you'd be crazy. Okay? To say you didn't wonder a little bit, you'd be wrong. But yet, one thing I don't wonder about is, I know, Lord, your thoughts are far beyond ours, and I know that you know what you're doing. And I think, didn't you tell me the story? Didn't you send that the night before about the lady that saw this picture? Wasn't that it?
Last night, I decided to go into my spam folder on my Facebook Messenger, and I get a message from this lady. Apparently, she messaged me last Sunday. I didn't know anything about it until last night. I'm driving to get my kids from the sitters.
This is a great story. It just shows how God will use even the artistry that you're doing now to do things that you have no idea.
Yeah.
He's using you, and you think, okay.
This is from a lady named Shauna, spelled with a S-H.
But Shauna and Shauna, which is already like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's crazy. And she says, Justin, you don't know me, but I think we know some of the same people. I just joined an art therapy group on here, and your painting showed up in my feed.
Now, that was a Christ painting.
Yes.
Right.
Your Jesus painting. I needed to see it because my faith has been rattled. I had colon cancer in 2021. My daughter was diagnosed with leukemia in April of this year. And then 3 days ago, we learned that my husband has 2 large brain tumors and a spot in his lungs and throat. As you can imagine, I am a total mess, and I don't know how I'm going to keep up. Your picture is beautiful, and after commenting, which I really do on a stranger's picture, I read your caption. I found it odd that I, too, known a woman with the same unique name and fate as your beloved. My friend Kara had just lost her sister Shauna to the same horrible disease. I got curious and saw you have a picture of the Quincy Bridge. Perhaps this is the same person. My husband is Grant, and he's a good friend with Luke. Despite them not being together any longer, we both remain friends on both sides. It amazes me that your painting caught my eye so serendipitously because I was telling Grant today, my faith is shaken, and I could really use a sign from God, a clear sign that He is listening to my prayers. And since I'm so terrified of what our future as a family holds, thank you for making beautiful art and maybe even restoring my faith a little tonight.
And you think, well, okay, that seems pretty simple. And maybe to some it's like, okay. But that piece of artwork, God uses to encourage somebody in the battle. And that battle's real, man. It's hard. I know what it's like. What's it look like? I remember my best friend when Catherine had to do what she was going to go through and weeks in the hospital, and you're running a company and you got 4 kids at home, and she's going to be there a while, and there's going to be these huge surgeries. It's like, and you don't know what to expect, what's coming, what's going to happen. You're overwhelmed. And anything that can bring encouragement is huge, okay? Because you're devastated. When you have news like these, you're devastated, And it's not that you don't trust God, but to sit there and say that was just nice and easy, heck no. And you're like, what's even life look like? So when we do our gifting, like my best friend who came to my rescue, and he's been a second dad to my kids, he comes and he's going to stay at the home. He's with my kids. He's going to take care of it. Don't you worry. We'll get through it. Now that's somebody bringing a friend that I don't know what I would have done without him, period. End of the story. even there, as simple as a painting that can bring a remembrance and try to help encourage in a time of, hell going on. That's why no matter what we do, I mean, this whole thing, as we probably begin to reel it in, is, faith is just what it is, faith. And it means standing strong no matter what. And being able to endure no matter what hits us. And really, they always say the bigger the test, the bigger the testimony. Mm-hmm. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I know it's hard. And I know what it's like to face cancer in a loved one head on. And I also know what it's like to be threatened to have it yourself, to stand strong, to overcome. But in God, we can do all things. Now, we're not here, Justin or either one are here we're not here to give false hope. Because some say, well, yeah, if it's so good, why are you giving me hope and it didn't happen for you? So why are you giving me false hope for mine or my loved one, whatever? No, we're not here giving false hope, because the ultimate victory is knowing Jesus Christ crucified and saved and rose again, that we want to spend eternity with him. That's the ultimate victory in the scheme of this little blip of life. And our life, without faith, we can't please him. So faith is the test of all of it. And what are you going to do when it's really hard? What are you going to do? And just because it doesn't happen once, you can look at Moses. Look what Moses went through. He had to go in front of Pharaoh. Then he had to do it, 10, 11 times. And once he got out of there, it never stopped. Then was the Red Sea. Then we're in the wilderness. And then they're going against me. And the next thing you know, he does all these things right all the way forward. And then at the very end, of course, in there, he made a small error in not obeying or lifting up God the way he should. So he never even got to go into the promised land. But he was counted as one of God's best. And I'm sure Moses is sitting there in heaven. But it can be rough. You don't think Moses was like, man, when's this going to end? Okay? Yeah. It just kept coming and coming and coming. And life can be that way. Does that mean God's not there? No, he was. He was there the whole time with Moses. He's been there the whole way with us. And even now he's using these beautiful women to send a testament of what God can be and do in faith, because the ultimate thing is to change the heart, to be transplanted to want to know and love Jesus, to go give it out, and to forgive the hard ones and forgive the enemies and do all these hard things. That's where he wants us, and to have faith when it really gets down. And we know, both of you and I know what it's like to be hit hard and face it, but we're still in faith. So now he's got you to that place through all that stuff you told us earlier, how hard it can be, how hard you struggle to come into that place of surrender, to finally get there. And then you get there and you're blessed with a wife, and then you face the next test. And yeah, it's a huge one, but you're still here serving. Now you're on the Winning by Faith podcast, as I am, to testify of the victories in God. Yes, victory because she's in a good place. Now you're using the gifting he puts in you. You're doing your artwork. He speaks through you through that artwork. He's gifted you that way back to be able to use it for a time even more so, such as now, to be getting that work out, to speak your heart, because it's evident, man, when you do that, there's a message behind it, and it's speaking to somebody. So when you put the artwork out, you've written that on the back of it, so whoever gets those is going to hear the heart of what was going on. Yeah. All of this leading us to the place of surrender and trusting God, and knowing that when we're in him and his presence and we have him in our life, we have everything. And if a loved one leaves us early, they're with him. So he's got them in heavenly places. And if there is streets of gold, whatever it is, I know it's glorious because you're in the presence of God. So she's up there worshiping him 24/7. And we're down here testifying that he's good. That's where we end up. So that's our encouragement, and look at us, we've had love, then we had to lose it. And our legacy is what's been left behind with our wives. And our legacy also becomes who we will tend to go forward as, and that's children of God, walking in faith, telling others that you can believe. And why some again get healed and some don't, I don't know, but we never stop believing. Mm-hmm. We never stop praying. We never stop offering those things up to God. We never stop testifying of who he is and who we can be in our lives, because we've also seen other very miraculous things happen. Yeah. Your life is a miracle in itself, just to be where you are, to go through what you have and still say, you know what? I'm a man of faith. Wow, how are you doing that after all of that? That testifies, and that gives people hope of what is to come. And that artwork, you don't need to stop it, because that's your gifting, man. He is using that amongst other things. And those people that are around you and supporting you even now, that's what you'll become to even more, to say, you know what, I've been through it. I got some stuff I can tell you, and I can give some life to you that God's done in my life to help you get through it, because He is faithful and He can get us through it. Without Him, we would be toast, right? What would you do if you didn't have Him? I mean, it'd be horrible. But now you're here testifying of your kids, and if we had time, we could tell how they've changed their lives, how all of a sudden they become baptized, how God is restoring your family even deeper in Him because He's brought you deeper in Him. And you can't help but go deeper in God to then not give it out, because the deeper you go, you're like, hey, guys, check out what's in my well. This is good stuff. Let me pull it out and give it to you. That's where we're at.
Yep.
Through all the hard. That's what they would want us to do. And they're proud of us. They're like, you know what? I'm up here with the King. You're doing it. You're doing the right thing. Well, guys, it's been great to have Justin on the day and to testify not only of his path, but I'm telling you, God has a perfect path. And even though it may bring hardship, it's all about faith, because without faith, we can't please Him. But in faith, we can hope for really good things. And the ultimate hope is knowing Jesus Christ and spend eternity with Him. So to really receive today's message, you got to get eternal minded and not worldly minded, because everything here is just that. And we see things in time right now. With God, there is no time. So it's like, it's forever. We're down here living on structure and time clocks, and, we follow the clock, and everything it's not like that in heaven. And right now, our wives, and if you have loved ones, they're there also, I hope. And if they're with Him, they're happy. They're like, you don't want us to leave this place. Just hurry up and come and join us, is probably what they're saying, because it's really good up here. We got the good stuff. So I hope today what you've heard will encourage you, will bring you hope. I hope that it might bring you forward in trusting God, or bringing you through your hardship you're in. I don't know where you're at, but I do know that God's faithful. And if you don't know Him, then you need to know Him, because without Him, it's really rough. But with Him, He can bring you through the challenges and stuff of life. And, we are a fallen world. We were a sinful world, so bad stuff does happen. And we don't fully understand how all that comes, but we do know that life with God is good, and He does have an ultimate plan. So hang in there. And as Justin and I would tell you both, stay in faith, because we win by winning by faith. So I hope you're encouraged. Have a God day.